Well, hello everybody. Hope you're doing good tonight. Glad to have you tune in. I think this is our 14th episode, and we have Claire Lynch tonight, and she'll be calling us later on. Claire lives in Canada now, so she'll be calling us here in a little bit, and we'll do some talking. Hope everybody's been good since the last time. To tell you my funny little story. I wear earbuds, and when I do this, and I hadn't had them on in a few days, and they're pretty sore right now. I'll tell you what happened. I bought me a chainsaw, and we got a little tree we're going to move. Or I thought it was little. It's pretty tall, but it got big quick. I remember when it was little, I guess is the thing. So anyway, decided I was going to cut this tree down with this new chainsaw I got. So anyway, I didn't think that it looked pretty. The tree looked pretty light, all the limbs, and my wife kept telling me, "Don't cut that till I get over there and we throw a rope on it, pull it down." And I said, "Oh, I got it. It's no big deal." And I cut it, and it hit me in the head harder than I think I've ever been hit. I've been hit before. I mean, I went through middle school, so get hit pretty hard there, but I've never been hit this hard, and it about put me out. I saw blue lights and green lights and stars and all that, but I've had a sore ear for about a week, and I'm not going to be trying anything like that for a while. I find out I'm not a woodcutter, so anyway, next week I'll be good, but I'm good now. But I just thought that was a funny story that you got to be careful if you play music or whatever. Realize that you can't climb up a power pole and fix wires, or you can't get out and cut trees if you don't know what you're doing. That's what I did. I thought I knew, but I learned a good lesson. Hope we have a few people log in tonight. We're starting to get some people there. Starting to see the numbers go up. I'm glad to have you every week. Uh, I've been working all day long in the last couple of days mailing hats out. We've been doing some hats for this new record, this Dobro record. And anyway, the numbers just started adding up. And then my boxes came in today and our last night mailed and are packed and packed and packed and stuff, and went to the post office today. And I had to make 4 trips out to my car, bringing hats in. So not all done yet. Got a bunch I have to mail tomorrow. So we'll be repeating that, and I'll be glad to get those in because I'm going to start mastering this new Dobro record on Monday. So I need to have everything out of the way before I get into that, and hopefully I'll get that knocked out tomorrow and get some of these things mailed out. But anyway, hope you guys are doing good. We've been out on the run all day today. Me and Lisa have both been on diets, trying to. She's been on a diet to help me be on a diet so I can lose some weight. So we cheat once a week on what we eat. So today we went to our favorite restaurant around. It's a little Italian restaurant called Pizza Palace. And if any of you folks watch drive-ins, drive-ins, oh gosh, drive-ins, whatever, and dives. I know it like the back of my hand, but you know what I'm talking about. Guy Fieri's on that show. Anyway, he's been to Pizza Palace, so we went there today and got a little something to eat for our meal, and enjoyed it because tomorrow we start right back on our diets, and staying fairly strict with them. I'm trying to, but anyway, something kind of cool today. Come home, stopped at the mailbox, and anyway, the company I work with on my guitars is Recording King, but Music Link is the company that oversees all that stuff. And Music Link does about everything. They do, let's see, Recording King, The Lord Guardian, uh, Palantino Johnson, AXL, Savannah, VHT, Lucinda. They do everything, all kinds of stuff. That's what they do. They do this kind of stuff. Anyway, it's a new catalog, and I was really just shocked. Had no idea about this, but this is pretty cool. This was in the center of their magazine. If you can see that, I'm not too hard to see, but I'm harder to see than I was about 2 years ago. Um, there you go. Over about the last 2 years, I've probably told you I've knocked off about 150 pounds. Uh, Maybe a little longer than that. Started when I had my stem cell transplant, and I'm working on getting on down there, as people say, to their fighting weight. I just want to get down there where I feel good. That's what I'm interested in. And anyway, let me look over here. I'm trying to see why I'm not getting pop-ups. Now I'm getting some. Uh, Buddy Barney Rogers here. Barney's on here every week, and I mentioned he's a great songwriter. And says, howdy, folks, going to be a great show. And I sure hope it is. I want to talk to you a little bit about Claire. I've known Claire a long time. And I'm trying to see how far we go back. I'm going to say maybe late 70s, something like that. And it's a funny story. I'll share it when she's on. But Barney, how's it sounding out there tonight? I've got a different microphone set up, and hope you can hear pretty clear. Somebody just give me a comment if you can hear me clear and all that. And I know I've got it set up for Claire. So anyway, Claire Lynch, she's a three-time IBMA female vocalist of the year, and she's a two-time, I think it's a two-time, three-time, no, it's a three-time Grammy nominee. Let's see, sounds great. Okay, Barney, that's good. I take your word. And my buddy Mark Roach on there. Hey guys, looking forward to it. Now Mark Roach goes back with me as far as Claire Lynch. We used to hang out at a place called Buddy's Barbecue here in town, where so many bands played. People like the Country Gentlemen, J.D. Crowe, the Knoxville Grass. Saw so many bands in there. And Mark was there just like me. We hung out there a lot. And Mark was older than I was, so he got to hang out a little bit better than I did, because he was able to order beer and all that, and I was still too young. But it didn't matter. I went out there and watched that music, and we shared a good time. So I'm glad to see Mark on here, because he goes back, like I said, to the Claire Lynch days. And anyway, she does come on tonight. It's a real funny story of how I met her and everything, and we'll talk about that. But I was very lucky to have Claire in my band here, the All Stars of Bluegrass. She was our lead singer, and then she moved to Canada, and we've not played any with the new band, but our new member is Gina Britt, and Gina also works with the band Sister Sadie. She plays with Sister Sadie. She plays banjo, and she'll be playing bass with us. So we're doing our first rehearsal, I think, in a week, because we got to get started on a new, record. And I've mentioned before, going to be on a new label and everything, and I'll let everybody know what label that is as soon as we're able to announce it. But funny story on Claire, and I'll bring this up later, but I used to work at the place I was talking about, Buddy's Barbecue, and I was a cook there during the day, and probably when they got their worst food, no doubt. But anyway, I also booked the talent in at one of the Buddies, and we got a promo kit that was from the Front Porch String Band, and the manager brought it to me, and I looked at it and I said, we can't have a string band in here. That's not going to work. You guys play bluegrass. And I said, well, I'll take it home and listen to it anyway. And I took it home. It wasn't what I expected. It blew me away how good the music was. I was expecting, three or four people playing fiddle and maybe clawhammer banjo or something, and that wouldn't have worked because we were like in a college town at UT with buddies. But I brought them in, and they became a house favorite over several years at Buddies, and it became a thing where they became family to us, and everybody looked forward to Claire and Larry Lynch and the rest of the band coming in, and we all got to be good buddies, and I actually auditioned for a job with her playing banjo, and I could play a little bit back then, but she was going to hire me in, or they were going to hire me in playing banjo and dobro, and we went down and talked and stuff, and it was just it was too easy living at home with my mom and not having to move to Alabama and stuff, and if I went in to play banjo, I wouldn't have lasted long because I wasn't that good, but anyway, that's where we met, and been good friends ever since. Traveled some together with the All Stars. We did some good shows, and I know she always liked singing with Alan and Steve Gully. And I think the last time we played together, I think may have been in Seattle, Washington, probably. May have been our last show. And when Claire, decided she wanted to move to Canada, that's when we had to get, Gina Britt in to sing. So I'm looking forward to hearing what the new band's going to sound like. It'll be different because, we don't have Claire and we don't have Steve. So, we're gonna make it work, and we've got some really good players in the band, strong singers. So it's gonna work real good, I think. And I miss Claire being in the band, and I sure miss my buddy Steve Gully. But if time goes on and you have to do what you have to do, you can't just sit in one spot and say, what am I going to do now? They were, really liked working with these people. You have to pedal on and do things, or you get passed by, and that happens a lot. If that's happened to me before, so I've learned lessons from that. But I'm looking over at the side a little bit before Claire calls. Jeff Miller said, "Howdy, Uncle Phil. Had Jim Hurst on my show last night, so we talked a lot about Claire Lynch, one of my favorite folks." Yeah, Jim Hurst played with her a long time and really fit her well. Um, if you look at the band, Claire Lynch band, you immediately think of Jim and Missy Raines. They were really a big part, of her shows that you saw all the time. And when I was auditioning, it was the Front Porch String Band, so it was a long time back before Claire branched off and really, what I say, really hit her stride when she went off as a solo artist. And that band right there, Jim Hurst, one of the greatest guitar players I think anywhere. And same with Missy Raines on bass. It was just a great band right there. So yeah, Jeff, glad to have you on tonight, and everybody else tuning in. You can, if you miss anything each week, you can go to YouTube. I put them on there, and we've had some pretty good guests. I usually can announce the guest I'm going to have next week. I don't have them locked down yet, but I've got a couple of people that I think it's just going to be a confirmation call tonight to get them lined up. But I don't want to mention nobody till we get them in. But there's some, like I say, big hitters. These folks are big hitters that I'm working on right now, and you will know them well when they come on the show. So hopefully you'll tune in next week and see who it is. I won't know who it is until probably tomorrow, but I want to have both of these people on the show at some point. So just keep watching us. That's a thing to do. And as I mentioned, YouTube, definitely check us out there. And like, when you go over to YouTube, like the page if you don't mind, because it sure helps me to be able to do this every week. If you'll go to YouTube, even if you watched it tonight, tomorrow go over to YouTube. You don't have to watch it again. Just hit like. that will help me a whole bunch to keep doing this because this show it takes a big chunk out of my Thursday nights. And but I like being here with you guys. This is something I look forward to, you know. And as it hits about 7 o'clock here on Thursday nights, I'm really looking forward to, looking over at the side and seeing all the people that tune in to watch us. So, be sure and do that. Go there to the page, like the page, and you don't even have to watch it. You're watching it here tonight. Just do that, and if you don't mind, go through some of the other past, videos that we have there and like them. If you've seen them, like them. And even if you don't see them, haven't seen them, like them. We need that, and we sure would appreciate that very much. Trying to think of anything else of interest that went on this week here around the house. It's looking real good for the summer for festivals. I think it's starting to bounce back. That's Claire. But anyway, let me get her. Toronto, Canada calling. Hello, Claire.
Hey, Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Let me get you on speaker. Now, can you say something?
Howdy.
There you go. Now let me turn you down.
Okay.
I thought that was Minnie Pearl there for a minute.
Uh-huh. I think I did that on purpose.
I did. You did. We got Claire online tonight, and I've been talking you up pretty heavy. Claire, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm hanging in, like a hair in a biscuit.
I
Doing good.
I hear you. I've not. Well, I've talked to you a little bit, but I guess voice talking. I've not talked to you since probably sometime after we played in Seattle. Is that about right?
I think so. So when was that? That was winter of 2019.
Yeah, it's been a ways back, hasn't it?
It has lots. Water's gone under the bridge since then.
It sure has. Well, we're glad to have you on the show. I've been talking about you, and
Uh-oh.
well, it's all good. I was talking about a little story. I may have told you, but when I worked at Buddy's Barbecue, you guys played there a lot, and I remember getting the first press pack for you guys, and it said the front porch string band, and I remember looking at it, and we had pretty progressive bluegrass there at Buddy's at the time,
Yeah.
and I saw that, and I said, it looks good, but we don't really want to start bringing string bands in here. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
took that home, and it wasn't that. And it blew me away. And I remember coming back the next day and telling the manager, hey, we got to get these guys down here. And he said, well, you said we didn't want string bands. I said these guys aren't a string band. And,
That just show you how ignorant we were back then. We didn't even know the real meaning of what a string band was. We were just bluegrassers from
sure,
Alabama.
sure.
We
Well,
weren't really into old time music, so we didn't even know.
well, the funny thing is, you guys, it happened with a few bands, but you guys become family here in Knoxville to people. I mean, it become more than the mandolin player, or the guitar player. They knew you was Claire. They knew Larry. They knew Alan Watkins. Uh,
Yeah.
and what was the Campbell guy's name that played bass?
Terry Campbell. What
Terry.
a wonderful singer he was, boy.
Yeah, he came over my house during the World's Fair. Him and his wife, and stayed a few days, and we got to go to the fair quite a bit, and
Cool.
had a good time. Everything Terry passed, he really liked it. I mean, you could get through the fair because you'd walk about 10 steps, and he was over here at a booth doing something. So it
Oh,
took us. It was like a 25-day event for us walking through the fair, but we made it eventually.
wow.
You played at the fair here, didn't you? World's Fair?
I didn't. I played at the Olympics, when they were in Atlanta. But
Oh,
I never
yeah.
played the World's Fair.
Wow. Tell us about the Olympics.
Huh?
Tell
It
us.
was the year that the bomber,
Yeah.
The guy with the backpack bomber.
Right.
And we were out in Oregon at a gig, and we were supposed to fly next day
Gosh.
and play. The Olympics was some big to do, right?
Right.
We were all like, should we go? We were so afraid. We didn't know if we should go. We were scared out of our wits.
You wound up going, right?
I mean, we ended up going and had a good time, but
Mm-hmm.
um, it was exciting. I'll tell you that.
Oh, no doubt about that. I'm gonna back this up just a little bit. I've got a pretty loud mic over there on the side. Tell me, let's move back a little bit. Let me move this up where I can hear. Tell me a little bit about. I know you were born. You're born in New York, is that right?
Yeah, I was born in Poughkeepsie, so it's not like the city.
Right.
It's upstate.
Right.
So I was a small town girl. I think Kingston's where I grew up, and it was about 15,000 people.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you're in Canada now, so you're not really too far from home, are you?
No, my mother and father were born and raised in Syracuse, which is kind of close to Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
I think Buffalo's a lot closer.
Yeah.
But they're in the snow. Grew up in the snow belt,
Mm-hmm.
which is just west of here. It's still the snow belt. They get a lot of snow in the winter.
Well, now you moved. How old were you when you moved to Alabama?
I was 12 years old, so I was
Jeez.
really impressionable. I just wasn't even just approaching puberty, and I just had finished the 6th grade, so my first grade in Alabama was 7th. So I went all the way
Wow.
through junior high and high school in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I graduated, I discovered bluegrass.
You were in college at that time, weren't you?
I never went to college. I'm ashamed to admit. No, I met the band on the University of Alabama campus
Yeah, that's what I
in Huntsville.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people mistake, when they read that, they think I was going to college there, but they were all students in Tuscaloosa. The
Gotcha.
band was, but they were playing in Huntsville where I was living and working.
Gotcha. Well, tell me a little bit about when you first started playing. Your music. Who influenced you, and then when you started playing more bluegrass, who was influenced, and people who influenced you then?
Yeah, well, before I got into country and bluegrass, I was into folk, so and rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
Well, pop rock,
Mm-hmm.
from the
Right.
70s. So, which was coming out of the 60s and 70s. There's some really good music back
Oh,
then, even on the radio.
Oh
But
yeah.
but once I got into started getting education into the Nashville history of music and bluegrass. I took a cotton to, of course, Emmylou Harris and Dolly Parton as far as female, and then I liked Nancy Griffith. I thought she was
Yeah.
just like this wonderful natural intelligent artist. And then on the bluegrass side, I was a Ricky Skaggs fan,
Yeah.
and I like Ralph Stanley an awful lot.
Yes.
Both of them really great singers.
And, flash forward on that. I saw you several times with Dolly. Tell me about that.
Oh, well, let's see. I guess that was around the turn of the century, right? And she was doing bluegrass projects.
Right.
She did. Her first one was Grass is Blue, and then she did Little Sparrow.
Right.
And then the next, I think she did another one that was kind of acoustic tinged. I think it had more
Right.
Celtic. But
Right.
she employed a lot of first-rate bluegrassers to play on her records and to tour with her. And
Sure.
I sang on both of the records, not all the way through all of them, but
Were
on
you
on
on?
each one. And then she asked me to tour with her.
That's awesome.
So
Were you on Little
yeah, so I
Sparrow?
got to tour both albums with her.
Okay. Was one of those Little Sparrow?
Yeah, Little Sparrow.
And
Yeah, she wrote that, and I sang live with her. I can't remember if it was me on the record or not. I have to go look.
I saw you. I'm sorry about the noise here. I'm getting scratchy throat, I have to grab some cough drops. It's just I'm on some of this
All
chemo.
right.
I'm on some of this chemo medicine that does that. I went from having a tenor voice to sound like Grandpa Munster. So
You're a walking miracle, Phil.
oh
I tell you, you're just an amazing, amazing trooper. I gotta hand it to you.
well, thank you,
An
Claire.
inspiration.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm just you know, uh, I won't hit much on this, but when I first found out I was sick 10 years ago, it was like a big deal, kind of crushed my world, and now I don't even think much about it till I have to go to the doctor. And it's like, oh, okay, and I go in. If I get bad news, I take care of it, and if I get good news, I come home and enjoy another month. That's kind of the way to do. But back to Dolly and everything.
Yeah,
I bet you had a lot of fun with her, didn't you?
I did. It was like first-rate touring, and of course, I was used to traveling in a van
Mm-hmm.
with and driving, from Alabama to Colorado to do a gig, right? So, but she flew everybody, and we got picked up at the airport limousines, and
Mm.
everybody's given a first-class hotel room, and the tour manager would slip your schedule for the next day under your door at night. I mean, I was like, wow, this is the way to play music.
Kind of like
We
blue.
got paid too.
Oh yeah, well, it's kind of like bluegrass, except for the airplanes, the buses, the managers, and the money, right?
Yeah, it was wonderful. I mean, we didn't do a lot of, like stage shows live, except we did mostly television and promotional. So we
Right.
did, the Grammys, and we did television shows in the West Coast and in New York, and Sirius XM radio shows, and, you know, uh, we did the ACM Awards. We did those kind of shows mostly.
I remember I was watching Dolly on probably the ACMs, and the camera went around. And I said, "Look, there's Claire Lynch back there at the back," and
Yeah, it could have been Phil Ledbetter. I think, I
yeah,
don't know
right.
what was it, Rob Ikes playing
Uh,
dobro.
I think what's funny, I think that it was uh, I got him on my new record. I'll think of it in a minute. Young boy from California. Rob did one, I think, but the other guy, my gosh, I, I,
Yeah, oh,
I'll think
isn't that funny?
I'll think of it here
Neither
in a
one of
minute.
us can
No,
remember.
we'll think of it. But now, Claire, you've won three IBMA Female Vocalist of the Year awards.
Mhm. Yeah, wow.
Do they do they with you? I've won three on Dobro, and
Yes.
they all seem to me just as the third one seems just as important as the first one, but the first one has a little bit more. I don't know how to say it, but a little more knockout punch, like you can't believe it really happened. Uh,
Yeah,
but
it is like an out of body experience. I've heard a lot of people say that about, Oscars and Grammys and stuff.
mhm.
And it's true, even, in our genre too. I'm sure it happened to you.
Mine was funny. I've got to tell you this. You'll appreciate. Uh,
Mhm.
I got my first one at the Ryman, and it was the first year in Nashville. And
Cool.
Jerry Douglas was sitting straight over from us. So all night long, I had been sitting there guessing who's going to win, and I was hitting 100% on everybody. So it, I was doing good. So it come Dobro, and I said Rob Ikes. Well, the time I said that, I guess they said my name because my son Matt looked over and started punching me in the arm and everything, and and my wife was all happy, and Matt said, you won. I said, no, I didn't either. I said, I think that was Jerry Douglas. He kept telling me to get up. So I thought, well, what if I get up here, stand up, and Jerry Douglas stands up, or Rob Ikes? And
Your worst nightmare.
oh gosh, I thought, well, what happens if I stand up? I don't want to look like a sore loser, so I want to go to the restroom or something. So the minute I stood up, I see Jerry Douglas standing up, and I said, "Oh my God, this is terrible." Uh, I've stood up like an idiot, so I started applauding for Jerry, and he looks over at me, and then he motions me, and I think, "Wow, I guess I did win it." And it was just funny. You don't ever expect the first one, but
Yeah.
they're all so important. I mean,
Yeah.
in our music, it's a big deal, and it wouldn't be to people who are out there for the ACMs or that stuff or the Grammys. But speaking of the Grammys, you've had 3 nominations. Is that right?
I have. Yeah. It's never won, but definitely fun to get on the list. And it looks great on the resume.
Oh yeah,
Definitely, it's an honor.
it is.
This last one, the last album I did, North by South, it was a
Mm-hmm.
collection of songs written by Canadians because,
Mm-hmm.
I just recently married this Canadian guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I had discovered a songwriting community up here that was, I thought very rich.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that the Canadians have like I forget what you call it, but it's like they have their own group of constituency at the Grammys. And they they found out too late that I had been nominated, and the nature of my album, they were gonna like support me and vote for me,
Wow.
and like showcase me on their big party and everything. But it was like they found out too late, which is a real shame because I might have won.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Your publicist fell down on the job on that one.
Oh no, she's a good girl. She worked really
I know,
hard. I
I
wouldn't
know,
blame her. It's
I
just a
know.
matter of time,
Who was working with you at the time,
I was working with Compass Records,
right?
and so yeah, so they had their own gal on their publicity team who
Right.
took a special interest in me
Sure.
because she was Canadian too.
Oh yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah.
There's some good ones out there. I've had some good ones, and Compass Records really, I mean, to me with bluegrass and stuff. I mean, that's one of the very top right there. I just think that Allison Brown just has and her husband. They've really just did a great job there with that label.
They work really hard. They really do, and they also know what it's like to tour, and
Yeah,
be a musician
they
and
do.
work with an agent, booking agent, and do gigs. So,
Mm,
and it's they have sort of a broad um, viewpoint, and they're not just suits.
yeah,
Not that
sure.
any of the bluegrass label people are.
No,
They're
no.
all down home and probably all pickers or love the picking.
But Allison
So.
sees a big circle, I think, with stuff. I mean, far outside the boundaries of bluegrass, and
Yeah, she really has, and she's a brilliant woman with a doctorate.
yeah,
She knows business, and she and her husband Gary West have worked
right,
really hard. I remember going to their first Compass Records. They had a little house on Music Row,
mm,
and I don't remember why I went up there, and I walked up the steps of this little house. She comes running out, hi Claire, and they were like brand new, and but they've really expanded, and they had bought up other labels that were gonna
right.
kind of disappear, and they're preserving a really important history of music.
How long have you been with them now?
Well, I only had a 2-record deal with them, and then I did my holiday CD in the middle of that. That was
Hmm.
my own label. So, but I don't know. Let's see, 20. Let's see, Dear Sister. I think it was 2013, and I got through in about 2016. So only 3 years,
Okay,
really.
okay.
Then I decided to move out of the country,
Yeah, makes it
and
hard.
that took up a lot of my time.
Well, speaking of, you mentioned the album, Dear Sister. That song
Yeah.
on there, I had heard about it and stuff and saw it getting nominated and winning all this stuff, but I hadn't really had a chance to hear it. And when I listen to that, man, that's one of the that's one of the best written songs that really that sticks with you. Tell me about that song, how you found it, and who wrote it.
Well, I wrote it with Louisa Branscombe,
Mm.
who is, a bona fide songwriter to begin with too.
Yeah.
And it was during the sesquicentennial of the Civil War, so it had been, what's that, 200 years
That
since the
sounds about
Civil War, and everybody was writing.
yeah, yeah.
Everybody's writing Civil War songs,
Mm-hmm.
and people were doing Civil War albums, like uh, the subject of the whole project was Civil War and,
Mm-hmm.
different artists on one project, that kind of thing. And she came to me and she said, well, let's write, I've got this great idea, and let's write, and we'll pitch it to these projects. So we did. She had four great uncles who fought in the Civil War,
Wow,
and
I didn't know
wrote
that.
home to their sister in Alabama, and the sister saved the letters, and she put them in a box, and 100 years later the family found the letters
Wow.
and compiled them into a book that has all the books. It's called Dear Sister, and that was Louisa's cousin who compiled the book.
Wow.
And
Didn't know
she
that.
said, and I said, well, heck, let's just write the song as if it's one of the letters. And so we did. We had
That's awesome.
2 or 3 writing sessions, and we would eat snacks and
Mm-hmm.
drink beer,
Mm-hmm.
and she had some really wonderful ideas. I really got to hand it to her.
Oh yeah.
Some of that descending line, da 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 da. That was hers, and I mean, but we both. I feel like we contributed equally on the
Equally, yeah.
song. It was a real collab.
I met Louisa about the same time I met you in the 70s. Same place, Buddy's Barbecue. She was playing with a band called Boot Hill. Remember them, I'm sure.
Yes, yeah, I met her back then. She was. I think she might have been living in Atlanta, but she played in Alabama at Horsepen's Bluegrass Festival. That's where we met, and
Yeah.
we were both,
Well,
barely 20
yeah.
when
I,
when we met, and Boot Hill played there, and the Front Porch String Band played there. So
mhm.
we were buddies from the beginning.
In our band, we had a band called New Dawn, and we hired Gary
Yeah,
Brown. You remember Gary real well, I'm sure. And
yeah.
Gary's cousins with Alan Bobby. Did you know that?
He did what? Oh, Alan Bybee.
And
Oh, no, I
Gary,
didn't know that.
they're cousins. Yeah. So
Well, Alan's going great guns, isn't he? I mean,
he's
in
really
spite of the pandemic.
yeah. Alan, you know, me and Steve Gully and Alan kind of started the band Grasstown, and we did
Right.
we did pretty good. But Alan,
Yeah.
since he's took it, he has really put his foot on the gas. It's really and going to Billy Blue Records, I think, has been a big thing for him. He's doing real well right now, and I'm real proud of him. He
Yeah,
finally,
I know. Finally got that IBM award. IBMA, excuse me.
yeah, and he's had two.
IBMA award
He's
on
got
mandolin
two of them.
after years of Stigma awards,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, oh yeah. I told him, I said, Alan, your time's coming, and it's this year.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh,
Yeah.
they don't like me down there, and he won it, and he's won it again. So,
I
it's
told him it was coming
oh
too when I was
yeah,
with your band, the All
yeah.
Stars of Bluegrass.
We had a lot of fun those few times we got to play, Claire. I
Yeah,
know,
a couple times.
I know it was good. You know, if you look back on things, just with getting to hang with Steve Gully and stuff.
Oh my gosh, and you.
Oh, well, you
I never
too.
laughed so hard.
um, we had some fun times there. We really did, and
Oh, y'all.
it was a lot of fun. I hated it when you had to move away, but I understand all that. And Alan Bobby is watching it tonight. He just wrote in my favorite singer, Claire Lynch. So
He's a gem, I'll tell you.
Alan's
Yeah.
Alan's tops. He really is, and I'm not going to talk good about him now that he's listening in. So have to get back to the other stuff. But you know, when I first met you, I'm gonna tell some funny stuff people don't know. But uh, we wanted to jam the next day, and we you told me where you and Larry were staying. So we go over. I go over. I say we. I didn't have any friends that I run around with back then that picked really few, but I think maybe I did on that one. But there was an old hotel in town that you guys were at, and like you said, this is before Dolly Parton days when you got a good hotel. This hotel you guys had, I remember pulling up and finding your room because everybody there had their doors open because the air conditioning was no good. And you guys had the doors open. We followed down there till we saw listened to the music, and you
Yeah.
had, and here was the funny thing I remember, and you told me about this later, but uh, I came in and I said, "Dang, they got a monkey." And I remember Larry said, "That's not a monkey, that's a kikichu." And
Oh, yeah.
his name was JoJo. Is that right?
Oh, Pooh Bear. Pooh
Pooh
Bear.
Bear.
She was a South American honey bear. She was a kinkajou.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
Kikachu.
we take her on the road with us. We were young.
I
We
rem-
didn't have any kids yet, and we used to take her on the road, keep her in a cage, and she'd get on Larry's shoulder and
I remember
ride, on his shoulder at the festivals and wrap her little tail around his
Yep,
neck.
I remember that real well. I remember. I don't know why I thought JoJo, but I remember. I guess now I know Pooh Bear as much as I did you guys because I had never seen one of those before, and I remember coming in the room and sitting down. And we played. Gosh, we picked all day, and then you guys went over to Buddy's and played after that, and
Yeah, oh boy, you have a lot of energy when you're that young.
gosh, I did good to get up here in front of my computer to do my show anymore. you know, Claire,
Well, I'm glad you're doing it.
oh yeah, I am too. I've been having a lot of fun. I learned a lot of stuff here about people that, just like you, that even though we traveled some together, and I've known you, gosh, I've known you most of my life. I've known you more than half of my life,
Well,
and I still learn stuff about you. And I want to talk about bands here a little bit. I mean, when people think about your band, they first thing they think about, they think of Jim Hurston and Missy Raines. And
oh yeah.
how long did you guys play together with that band?
Off and on about 14, 15 years.
Wow.
We really, I mean, they kind of moved in and out. They played with Larry and me,
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
front porch string band days,
Huh?
and then um, I quit for a few years,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I came back, I asked them if they'd work with me, and they both said yes. So then we've done a number of recordings together, and I'm still working with Jim.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
I had a bunch of duo gigs booked with him for this year, of course, for 2020 and
Mm-hmm.
2021, and they're all gone. But
Yeah.
we're collaborating on recordings. So
Good.
he's got a new single out called "It's a Beautiful Day," and I'm singing on there.
That's
So
awesome. Man.
yeah, still working with Jim. He's a monster
Oh
player.
yeah, he's one of the very best there is. Now your husband has a studio, right? Or is it one of your friends that's close by where you can do all this stuff back and forth?
Oh, well, I have built a tiny little studio in the home here. I've learned, like many musicians, out of necessity,
Mm-hmm.
have bought Pro Tools and learned in the computer. And
Wow.
yeah, my husband Ian has got me set up with a lot of wonderful equipment, and
That's awesome.
I'm self-recording. I'm doing
That's
work for other
awesome.
people, singing the harmony and stuff, and doing
That's
it
awesome.
from my office.
We never thought back in the front porch string band days of hanging out this day would come of recording at home, did we?
Didn't have a clue.
No. I remember.
No,
I,
it was the
remember.
total studio experience, right? You go
Oh
in there and
yeah.
work with the big engineer, and
Oh,
big studio.
I remember in those days that it was a big deal. Oh, I'm gonna go record, and you may be at somebody's house that was just the only guy in the bluegrass market that had enough money to buy a reel to reel and a few microphones, but it was a studio,
Yes.
and it was a big deal to get in and do that, and it's just it's funny how much time passes by with things, but I want to talk some more about some different things with you. What's your I know there's always stuff you like on each one, but what's the album you've recorded that has been was your most favorite and most fun maybe to record?
Well, I have to tell you, it's my holiday CD. That's the name of it, Holiday, with an exclamation point. And the reason is because uh, we set up studio in my house in Nashville,
Mm.
and with equipment from Todd Phillips. Todd Phillips, the great bass player
Oh
from
yeah.
California. He's also a wonderful engineer, and he brought all his stuff over, and we set up studio all through the house. Like one guy's in this bedroom, another guy's in that. And he kept his equipment in my house for 4 months. I had to walk around microphones for 4 months, but it was so much. It was so relaxed. We were just at home, when Mark Schatz would come down from Maryland, and we'd bake banana bread, and it was just like it was home. People wore their slippers, and I lived in an old '50s ranch house, an old rancher, and it was all pine paneling, and it sounded wonderful, and it was just we had the freedom. We didn't have a producer. We were doing our own, and we just got in there and played the way we wanted to. We didn't give it a lot of thought.
That's when
And
it's
it
the
was
best, I think. When you can
do
do
what?
that, I think that's when it's the best when you can do that.
Exactly. I mean, it was a lot of familiarity with each other's playing, and freedom, and it just came out magic. Not to mention the fact that Todd Phillips has an incredible ear and a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful gift for editing.
Oh yeah.
So, it's really my favorite, and I always wanted to do a Christmas album anyway. So I love Christmas music.
What label were you on a label for that? Or did you put that out yourself?
I put that out on my own label, Frill
Mm-hmm.
Hill Records,
Mm-hmm.
and probably my next project will be my own label too. I think I'm gonna try the independent thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Get a lot more money in your pocket that way. Usually, it's
Well,
yeah.
I think
Well,
so. No middleman,
yeah,
but you
that's
also
true.
have to do all the work that a label does, and
I've been at
believe
labels.
me,
I've been at labels. I had to do all the work. I know you have too.
it's a
uh,
lot.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, you got. I know you're not working on anything at the moment, but what's out there on your radar? You're looking at maybe doing before too long, or getting into, or if you're working on something new.
Oh, absolutely. I know everybody's put a record out this year, so
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of good that I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking let everybody else get theirs out of their system.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm writing a lot, and I'm co-writing and solo writing, and I mean, my fans have honestly wanted me to do a swing album for a long time.
Oh yeah.
I got about half an album worth of swing, and I got a half an album worth of other, more bluegrass tinge. And you know, I I don't think I can put them out on the same record. That
You can
so
have
I
two
don't
of
know what
them.
I'm. If I'll have to build two albums or just do EPs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's the wild west out there. I mean, everybody's doing
Mm-hmm.
singles and then doing albums and
Yeah.
doing EPs.
Yeah, it's totally
I
different. Totally different, isn't it?
It is, and I think people are experimenting, and some people are getting good at it.
Mhm.
You
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah.
getting good at putting out singles and stuff. So.
Oh, I always used to say back, probably the time we were with Grasstown or probably Wildfire. I always saw the single concept because I always remember growing up. A lot of your rock bands and stuff. would always put a single out. You couldn't buy the record, but you could buy the single. And then when it came out on an album, everybody went and did that, went and bought that album. But I always
Yeah.
remember that was for why your 45s were out, was because of that. And I always wondered with bluegrass, are we putting too much music out at once, or should we drop? I always thought if you give your whole album to a radio station, they'll be playing whatever they want to. So what happens is you wind up having uh, very little charting because they're playing so many songs. And I
Well,
do
that's
the
the thing. Yeah.
yeah.
You're right.
Well, I knew the bands in the old days would play one single because that's all the radio station had to play. And I thought later on, with bluegrass, we ought to do that because they can't sit and play everything else, so we can focus on one song if they don't have everything. And I, I think that's kind of be thinking that a lot of the bluegrass labelers are starting to do now, starting to,
They
put,
sure are.
yeah,
Yeah.
they put out a lot of them. And speaking of singles, this is a funny thing. We did the All Stars record, and they didn't mean to put out one single. They meant to put out albums, but they shipped, I don't know how many, a bunch of albums to radio stations, all this stuff, and it only had one song on it. And
No.
the company, yeah, it's a nightmare because it went to Amazon and everything, and people's writing me and everything. It's like, hey, I'm not responsible for that, and it was an accident. What happened? But it's like waking up in a bad dream when you find out your album's supposed to go out, and then all they've sent out is one song, and it's not even the one you're going to focus on. So it's kind of funny with that, but I'm so glad you're
I
doing
remember
good.
when I had a rounder release. I think it was What You're Gonna Do,
Mm-hmm.
and the manufacturers, they get to the tail end of one album and then they'll start a new one.
Mm-hmm.
So like my first batch of What You're Gonna Do was like somebody else's record.
Oh lordy.
It was embarrassing, but it wasn't my fault. I couldn't help it.
Same way here. What hurt us is people would call and say, we didn't really get a chance to review this. It's got one song, and I said, well, we'll review that one song. We'll get you some more here pretty soon. So it's just all you do is laugh about it, I guess. But Claire, I'm gonna go through some stuff here. A lot of people wrote, and I'm sure there's some here for you. So let's see. Told you Alan Bobby's listening, and let's see what I can find up here. Buddy of mine, Jeff Miller, said North by South is such a great project, and it sure is. And
Jeff Miller, he's a good one.
yeah, he sure is. He sure is. And a buddy of mine, Kim Boyers, was a good buddy of Steve Gully's, and she's on tonight. And
Yeah.
let's see if we got anybody with wants to. Most of these people don't want to talk to you, Claire. I don't think they're mad at you, but
Let's just show you how many fans I hadn't got.
oh, you got a ton. I tell you what, you have got a ton of fans, especially here in the East Tennessee area. And I know you played the Bijou a lot because you're like the first name. When they start looking to call, they look at people that's had a good presence here, and you always have. You've always, I know you lived your time in Alabama, but so many people, you guys were here so much, so many people thought you were from Tennessee.
Oh yeah, East Tennessee been very, very good to me. Yeah, we played up there a lot. I think it started with Johnson City.
Mm-hmm. The
Down
home,
home.
maybe.
We played there a bunch when we were young, and then
Mm-hmm.
Tank has his festivals,
Mm-hmm.
and then we finally graduated to Knoxville and got to play there.
We played a bunch of, or not a bunch, but we played the festivals that Tank had, probably every year. My gosh, they were some wild places to get out of.
There were stories. There were stories that went around the down home.
Oh gosh.
And Hank used to leg wrestle with Sam Bush in the green room or stuff like that.
Leg wrestle. You know, I remember one time they had a festival there, and our band New Dawn played, and so did J.D. Crow, and Crow and them were up on stage, and this dog comes up on stage and is wandering around, and he goes to hike his leg up on JD, and JD rakes the banjo, and the banjo runs, or the dog runs, jumps off the stage. Well, the next day, we're playing there, and that same dog's there, and he gets up on stage, and we're up there setting microphones up, and that dog, he got it with my brother. He laid it to him. We had brand new. We were all dressed like in like tan suits, and that dog, uh, he took a leak all over my brother from the knee down, and we had to play the whole set like that. And my brother just bought new boots, and his boots were sloshing when he was walking.
Oh my God! They didn't call it a down home for nothing.
No, they didn't. Well, this was at the outdoor festival.
Oh, that was outdoor. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
the outdoor one. Yeah, but you know, Tank brought in a lot of good music up there, and
Sure did.
we were talking, not too long back about all the people that we had saw driving up. I mean, I remember seeing, JD with Keith Whitley there, which I saw JD with Keith
Yes.
Whitley, but
Yeah, Lori Morgan gets
Lori
out of the
Morgan.
band with him. I
Yeah,
don't know if that was where I saw, but I saw Lori Morgan get out of the band with Keith one time.
I had heard that and it was somewhere in East Tennessee, I think. Uh, but it's funny. I remember we played with our band up with George Jones and Newgrass Revival and stuff, and Lori was
Yeah.
playing with George Jones then, and
Huh.
was married to Ron Gaddis at the time, bass player, and that night was one of George big highlight nights. He came down and he did two songs, and he stepped up to the mic and said, "Well, it's been a good time with you tonight. We're going to do you one more and get on out of here." And he had just done two songs, and
Huh.
he went to leave the stage, and promoters over there on the side of the stage and runs him back on the stage. Well, the next time he does a song, and he tries to go off the other side of the stage, and there's the promoter stopping him there. Well, George finally got off the stage and went and got in his bus and wouldn't get back out. And
Oh,
it was,
that's so sad.
yeah, it really was. That was probably when he was at the bottom, the very bottom right then. And but those kind of festivals, that's what they were. I mean, there was moonshine there long before it was legalized, and you, it,
Oh yeah.
but it was just
Yeah.
it was just fun times back then.
Have you ever told the story about Marcos, the lady? What's her first name? From
Imelda Marcus.
Imelda Marcos. Have you ever told that story on your podcast?
I don't think I have. I might mention it now if it's on my mind. But don't run off and leave me, Claire. I know it'll bore you to death. But we during the World's Fair, we picked up a lot of extra work on the side like you guys did, and it was always parties. Well, Jake Butcher was one of the guys that helped bring the fair into town, and he and a lot of his buddies, uh, Jake had a real big mansion out on the river here, which is kind of sad now because I guess where everything fell through, that house is abandoned, and they've got like people living, vagrants living in there, burning fires and stuff. It's really sad.
Oh,
Yeah, but anyway, they brought our band up there, and we played out by the swimming pool, or by the front gate. Let me back up on that. By the front gate. So they wanted us to play there. Well, here comes all the limousines for the Marcoses. They were big. That was the president and first lady
yeah.
of the Philippines. So they pull out, and they're trying to get us out of there because they don't want us to see, even though we were the entertainment for the East Tennessee bunch, they felt like they were a little classier than the bluegrass, so they wanted to get us out of there before the Marcuses came in. So
Yeah.
we're there, and here comes these big limousines, and all of a sudden, Imelda Marcus gets out. She's the shoe lady that had all the shoes, and
600 pairs, something like
yeah,
that.
oh yeah, yeah. And I don't remember which one she was wearing that day, but I do remember she took them off because she got up and started dancing with us. Got out of the car, took her shoes off, started dancing. And maybe that's why she had so many pairs. Just maybe she lost them or left them somewhere. But she gets up there and dances a little bit and everything. And the people doing the World Fair, they're over there in their big suits and ties, and they're looking at us like, "You guys get out of here. We're trying. We want to get some pictures and stuff." So she's out there dancing. So she comes over and asks if she could sing one. And my brother's laughing already. And we said, "What do you want to sing?" And she says, "Do you know Rocky Top?" I swear to God, this is true. Want to do Rocky Top? So we said, "Yeah, sure." Do you know what key it is? And she said no. So the banjo player just started at the first fret, strumming up, and she goes, that one there." And I think it was like maybe an A or something like that. So anyway, she kicks it off, or he kicks it off, our banjo guy, and my brother kept looking over, and he says, "Well, I'll give you $100 if she knows any of the verses." Well, she starts singing, and she sung every one of the verses. Didn't miss a word. I mean, this is, royalty from the Philippines. And she sings all this stuff, and then she wanted to sing more. And the guys putting on the fair stuff, they kind of got them and edged them around to get them away from us. And then they come and told us to go downstairs and wait. So we go downstairs and wait, and they come down.
Queen of the Philippines sings Rocky Top.
Could you believe that? I mean, she really did. And it was.
That's pretty awesome.
Well, they put us downstairs, and what was so funny, we sat there about an hour not playing our instruments. So they finally tell us to go on home, that they'll play us the next week. So we go to leave, and they had a hot tub outside. And I'm telling you, it was full of the best wines and champagnes and beer. And it was full. I mean, the hot tub was full, and there was no cheap wine in there. And so, anyway, I wasn't part of this, or I don't remember being part of this, but somehow or another, we took all of our instruments out of the case and put them in the car, or took all of our instruments out, left our cases, and then for some reason we went to leave after our instruments were in. We went to get our cases, and for some reason all of our cases were real heavy. I don't know how they got that way, but they were real heavy. And we got inside the car and opened them up. Didn't you know why they were real heavy? We had took a whole bunch of the supplies out of the hot tub, which was lots of. We took. Oh, I'm not going to say I took. I know who did, but my case had a lot in it too. But we got more money in champagne and wine than they could have paid us for a show. Which the check bounced, so I guess it was okay.
I guess perks of the gig,
It was, but that's what happened on that. That was kind of the fun times back then. But Claire, let me see if anybody else is wanting to talk to you here. Mark Roach. Mark Roach, I don't know if you remember him, but he hung out with Knoxville Grass all the time. He never missed being at Buddy's. And he wrote on here, "Claire is the greatest," because he used to see you guys all the time. And Barney Rogers, a good buddy of ours, he wrote Rise and Shine. I think that was the name of it, off Alan's album. And he said that he really liked Pee Wee and Fern.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good album.
That was written by Harley Allen and Mel Besser.
Yeah.
So Harley Allen, what a wonderful songwriter he was.
God, he was the best. He
and
really was.
Singer and musician. I mean, he was just had it,
He sure
but
did.
he wrote that song, Do you know the story about that?
No, tell
They
me
had
about.
this writing appointment on Music Row.
Mm-hmm.
Mel was in town. I guess he had been living in Texas or something, and or it was I forget where he'd been living, but and he had an appointment with Harley because they were old friends, and they sat around, from like 9 o'clock until noon, couldn't come up with a thing.
Mm-hmm.
they said, well, might as well go to lunch. That's what you do when you can't come up with anything to write. Let's go to lunch. And he said, yeah, I might as well pack it up. I gotta get on the road today. I gotta go see Pee Wee and Fern. And Harley said, Pee Wee and Fern, who's that? He said, that's my mom and dad. And he said, let's write that.
Wow.
I sat down and wrote Pee Wee and Fern, and it's a magic song.
How long did they just write that real quick?
Yeah, I don't know if they skipped lunch or not, but they did finish it that day.
Wow, that's a great song right there.
Yeah.
You can always tell Harley's stuff because it just had a different sound. Even when the country artist would do something, you'd listen, you'd say, "Oh, that's a Harley song." His lyrics were just they were just so so much different than anyone else's. And back, I remember when I was working on my album, I was going over Steve Warner's working on some stuff, and Steve had a bunch of Harley Allen songs that nobody had, that Steve's holding back, and he would play them, and it was just like, wow, you got to get that out. And he would say, well, yeah, when the time's right, and if not, I'll pass them on. But I mean, they were really good stuff, and you could just tell his stuff.
He was a genius, I think. Well, or he listened to his genius. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he listened to the muse. He let that flow through him. He really did. He was one heck of a songwriter.
Harley had almost everything, and I say almost because you know what I mean. To have been, he could have been as big as he wanted to be in this, and I just think Harley was like some people. When you get into management, there comes a time you have to bite your lip sometime and go on, and I know Harley didn't do that because Harley was Harley, and sometimes
he was a tough one.
he was, and he came from a very musical family too, Harley Harley was one of these people that if he didn't like you, didn't like you, and if he liked you, you was his best friend, and you was all good with him. And Harley.
They say I really I wasn't close to him. I met him once. I was closer to Mel. That's how I got the song. I got it from Mel.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay. Well.
Yeah.
Oh, you talking about Melanie Cannon, right?
Mel Besher.
Oh, I've got you. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, his mom and dad's name were Pee Wee and Fern, and that story is a true story. That whole song is about Mel's mom and dad. It's really precious.
I did not know that. Well,
yeah.
Well, I wasn't real close to Harley either because I didn't know him good, but I know people. Barry played the band with us, Crabtree. Harley loved him to death, and they would, when they was around each other, they would just talk like they hated each other's guts, but at the very end they would hug each other and laugh, and Harley was cut like that, I guess. But
Barry's a funny one too.
Oh gosh!
Have you had him on your show yet?
I don't have enough time for Crabtree. he's a 24-hour show. See, we traveled together with Wildfire, and my gosh, Crabtree he's one of the funny things about Barry is he's got such a hard edge, and I met his mom and dad the first time, and they were just such nice people. And I said, no, wait a minute, how did Barry get so hard edged? And it was real funny because he was always hard edged with me, but the thing about Barry is he would always take time to thank you he'd always thank me about, he'd say, "Hey, Led, thanks for getting this show, man." That's the way Crabtree would talk. And he always called me Led. And he called my wife Mama Led and Mama Led. And Crabtree was funny. We laughed so much at him. You get him,
Yeah.
you get him and Daryl Webb in the van, and Daryl drinking Red Bull, and Daryl drank so many Red Bulls one night and was bouncing so hard off the walls. We stopped at a gas station and we would not let him go in because we knew he was after more Red Bull. He was like Beavis when Beavis and Butthead Beavis had drank all the energy drinks. And anyway, he got bouncing off the wall one night driving down the road, and Crabtree put him in a bear, I guess a bear hold or whatever, and said, "Webb, you're going to sit here and you calm down." He goes, "I don't care if it's a mile or if it's 100 miles, I'm going to hold you down." And Crabtree finally just loosened up a little bit, and Webb lightened down, and we went on. But we had some fun time, just like you guys did. But Claire, I know you don't have anything right now you have done, or but you're working on some stuff. You said, and
I'm working on some stuff, and I got a song #2 on the charts right now.
saw that.
It's kind of fun.
Saw that. Tell us about that. Saw that today.
Well, it's a song I wrote in the 1900s. It's called Goodbye Again, and I was just invited to sing as a guest vocalist on Lee Kodak's album, the Sharp Flat Pickers.
Right.
And he said, "Now what could we do?" And he said, "Ronnie Bowman said he'd sing on it, and maybe y'all could do a duet." And I was like, "Let me dig back in my catalog," and I found this old country song. And Ronnie said, "Yeah, that'll do." And so we just went in there and cut it. I kind of like made notes how to arrange the vocals, where so it was male and female kind of thing. And dang if it hasn't, been promoted. It's not my album, but it's my song, and I'm singing it. So.
I
With
saw
Ronnie,
that. I saw that today.
Fabulous singer.
Well, I saw that today, and congratulations on that. I hope it goes on up another notch. And
Well, if it doesn't, I don't care.
You
I'm
got
just
to
so
know-
thrilled, I've always liked that song, and I never could get somebody to cut it. And it was too country for me, I thought, in those old bluegrass days. I thought, well, it's maybe too country. Now, the only people that sing real country is bluegrassers, so there you go.
That's right. It's flipped. It's funny how it is now. And you mentioned, Ronnie Bowman. That's another guy that really is writing good music right now.
Yes.
And the stuff he and Chris Stapleton worked on together. I mean, that finally gave, Ronnie, I guess I'll say gave Ronnie a payday for all the years he's worked writing, and a good way to go. But Ronnie, and Ronnie's such a great singer too. I miss hearing him, But I saw that today. I was looking to see anything today on you that I had missed, and I saw that, and I meant to bring that
That's
up.
kind of cool. So I didn't have to do an album, and yet I got a song on the charts. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and #2, that's even better, But before I let you go, I'm gonna look over here and see if anybody has a question for you, because what happens is I find these questions after I get in and after we get off the air, and I don't want to miss anything. So let me look down through here.
Okay.
Well, oh yeah, okay. Mark Roach, the guy I told you about earlier, from Buddy's, mentioned the Beans Barn here in outside of Knoxville. Do you remember playing the Beans Barn? I know it's been a long time ago.
I don't. What is it? What barn?
It was called Beans Barn, and they put on big parties there. You remember all the guys that used to do the Western hats here in Knoxville?
Yeah.
The Dunlaps, and they would do these big. They would rent out these big places and have these big throwdowns, and I remember you guys playing. You guys, the Heights of Grass, Knoxville Grass, and I can't remember who else, but it was a big throwdown. I remember.
Oh, you mean we ended up there like after a gig or something?
No, it was a
Oh,
planned thing they booked you for, and
oh, okay.
and I
Well,
rem- and I remember.
I've done a million of them.
Oh
I don't
gosh,
remember that one,
oh
but that
yeah.
doesn't mean anything.
No, I remember the one thing about that one was kind of funny. I went out to the deputy's car, and I won't mention who the deputy was. I knew him, and he had all this moonshine he had confiscated, and he had actually confiscated it for the party, and he had got it, and then he brought it into the party, and we were all just looking because back then moonshine was, you might as well be carrying, you know, you might as well. I don't really know what would compare back then. It was just you didn't see people carrying it around in public like you do now, and these
Yeah.
guys they just opened it up. It was out there with the sandwiches and everything, the moonshine, and it was funny because people would say, "Wow, I'm not gonna bother that because there's the deputy out front," and would say, "Well, that's how they got it was the deputy brought it, you know." But we had some good times. I know Knoxville is very proud of you. There's still a lot of old bluegrassers here, and a lot of
Yeah.
people here that's just now getting into it that don't realize. We've got a lot of people in the media here that they'll talk about the music starting at maybe if they mention bluegrass, it'll be starting at maybe 2000, and they don't realize the history in just this town of all the people that's been here and played,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm just I was real fortunate to be at the age to get to see all these good bands like you guys and get to be friends with people like you and Larry and Alan and then all the country gentlemen and J.D. Crowe and all these people, getting to just meet them and hang out with them here in town when I was a kid, and going to school. Then you couldn't talk about that because people didn't know who they were. I mean, you mentioned J.D. Crowe, you might as well be mentioning the guy that bagged groceries down at the local store. They didn't know, you know.
Yeah.
So, I got where I would just come in and say, "What'd you do this weekend? Did you play your little bluegrass?" And I'd say, "Yeah," and who'd you play with? And, you'd mention, and they would start laughing and things like that. And like, "Have you ever heard of Steven Tyler?" I said, "Yeah, I know who he is too." "Really? How do you know him if you play bluegrass?" I said, "Because I listen to a little bit of everything." And but it was like that in school. And then what's funny now is when they have the big Bijou shows, a lot of the people that was in school during that time that didn't pay attention to it and blew it off, they're the ones that buy the tickets and come to the Bijou to watch Del McCurry and people like that. So it's pretty cool, how things go
That is
around.
sweet.
It really is. But Claire, it's been great to have you on, and what I always like to do here is bring on people, especially people like you I know, and don't have to read up too much on. It's more like sitting down and just catching up because usually me and you, when we played music before, it's not a time to sit down and talk. It's a time of let's get our songs together and run over them real quick. And we never have time to talk. And you leave on different airlines than we do, going somewhere else and stuff. But it's good to talk to you here tonight. And
Great to be in your company again. I appreciate it so much.
you too, Claire. And hopefully they'll have an IBMA this year. And
Oh, well, we'll see. I
I,
don't know. The border's closed still. Here they just closed it.
I
We're in
know,
lockdown in
I know.
Canada because we hadn't got the vaccine like y'all do
Wow.
as much. As much. It's a lot later here, and I just got my first jab
Did you?
this week.
Which one did you get?
I got the Moderna.
Moderna. Good, good. I had
Yeah. So,
both of mine done in February and had no problem. It was funny on my second dose. That's what everybody says. Oh, that's what's going to put you in the hospital and stuff. So
mhm.
the next day, I'm out working on my car, doing some stuff, cleaning it out, whatever. And I worked all day, and I come in that night, and my wife asked me, "How you feeling?" I said, "Feeling pretty good." And said, "You're not having any any kind of problems with your vaccine? And I said, oh, I forgot I had it. You know, I just had
Me
it.
too. I hadn't had any trouble with it.
You know, Claire, I think if people would quit getting on Facebook talking so negative, we could get everybody vaccinated. So many people scared that they're putting a chip in your arm or all this other stuff, and it's not going to get good till everybody can get vaccinated and we can get these borders open again. And
That's it. It's moving slow up here in Canada, but we're starting to make some progress. So,
good,
but
good.
they locked Toronto down because what's happened is the vaccines come so late
Mm-hmm.
to Canada that the variants have had a chance to spread.
Oh gosh.
So now we're fighting variants, and so they locked the city down this,
Gosh.
a week and a half ago.
Wow, that
Again.
we that reminded me of something funny I want to tell you before you leave. When you mentioned that in Canada, back when the SARS broke out, you remember that?
Oh, they had bad. It was a lot worse in Canada than it was in the United
Everywhere
States.
else. Oh, we had a show in Toronto that week, and
Did you?
yeah, and we couldn't figure out, are we going to go? Are we not? Are we going to go? Are we not? And
Yeah.
I remember one of the guys in the band, and I won't mention their name. There's four of them in the band, but said, "Hey, we got to go make some money." And I kept saying, "Well, this is pretty bad. Well, we got to go make some money." So anyway, one of the guys said, "Well, I think we need to go do this." So anyway, I was scared. I went up there to Canada, and we actually were playing in Toronto. That's the thing about it. So I remember going in there, and it was real fun. What's funny about this is there we were in a grocery store trying to get through, and there was like big lines, and there was one line over there that wasn't as big as the other, and Darrell Webb said, "Here, Phil, we'll get waited on real quick." And I said, "No, we're just gonna have to wait." Well, me and Webb walk up behind a short line, and he starts coughing, and these people start just scattering. Uh, and the next thing we're like second people in line, and Webb said, "See what I told you?"
Terrible.
And people were looking at him and everything, and I don't remember if I stayed in line or not, but yeah, the SARS was a really bad time in Canada, and I just think probably like anything, if people will, not get too confident and think it's all over with, we can get it knocked out. That's a problem. Like here, the a bunch of the towns are saying next week that they're getting rid of the masks mandate, so people don't have to wear a mask, and it's just too
I
early.
think it's a mistake, but that's just me.
Well, I go to dialysis and I have to wear a mask the whole time I'm in there 4 hours. My nurses wear a mask for 12 hours a day.
I know they do.
And
Yeah.
these people just I think it's such a hard deal to throw on a mask to go in a grocery store and get a Coke or something. And
I know.
I just don't get it, but it'll always be like that. But I just hope you guys are able to travel soon and hope we get back to normal and be back in this good old life we used to live once
I'll miss my
upon a
friends
time.
and my family, for sure.
Exactly. Well, we're going to get back to it. And Claire, I appreciate you calling in tonight, and we've really had a good time with you. And hope to see you soon. And you take
Sounds
care of
great,
yourself,
Phil.
okay?
Always great.
Same here. Take care of yourself.
Okay, buddy. I'll be in touch.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Let me hang up on Claire real quick here. All right. There we go, Claire Lynch. Now I'm going to read some stuff over here to the side. Glad to have her on tonight. We got a bunch of stories we couldn't tell on here, and it's best we didn't even go that road. But Claire played some with us with the All Stars. We had a great time with her. Let's see. Let me get down here and see what I've not read. Let's see. Betty Edmondson. Betty Let me get my microphone out of the way. I'm trying to do something a little different this week because last week I know we had a lot of noise, and I'm gonna try. I mentioned I'm gonna try to get this on Zoom. It would just be better to have somebody else to look at other than have to look at me here. So Betty Edmondson said, I always look forward to Thursday nights at 8 p.m. watching your show. Betty, I say this every week. Thanks for doing that. I always saw a lot of you in school. Think a lot of you now. And I appreciate you tuning in with us on Thursday nights. And scan them down. Jeff Miller, glad you're doing this. Keep going. Thank you, Jeff. I'm going to do it till I run out of people. And I was talking to my son Matt today, and I think we just keep going because over the years you meet so many people. You really do. And Janet Lee Carpenter, hello Phil, glad to have you on. And my old buddy and best friend, one of my best buddies, Donna Sullivan. And I got to tell you a funny story on Donna Sullivan. Donna's really funny. And we played a show with Dell and Bradley over in Maryville, and Donna was at our record table. Donna's got her hair cut off real short and everything. She's got the cool look going, and she's at our record table. And anyway, a woman walks up, says that she was looking for my wife, Lisa, and Donna comes over and she goes, well, you can talk to me. Said I'm his wife, and the woman says, no, Bill's wife is blonde headed. I've seen her before. And Donna said, well, honey, I didn't really mean I was his wife. I'm his mistress. And she started laughing, and this woman come over to the table. She kept walking by, looking at me real funny. But Donna is one of the most funny people I've been around. I always enjoy being around my buddy Donna. Don't get to see her anymore much because after leaving Dell and Bradley and then Steve being gone, I don't get up that way. But my son's playing with the band, so I hope I get to see Donna a little bit more. She's my buddy. Jeff Sullivan, glad to have you on. Kim Moyers, I mentioned you earlier, and I'm going to mention you again. A good friend. Thanks for helping watch after Debbie Gully. You mean so much to her, and I know that. She talked about you so much, and I'm so glad. I hate she's got far away. I know what you really do because she's moved closer to her kids, but not a day goes by, but we don't think or talk about her, and I'm glad you're there watching after her. And my wife's best friend, I will say best friend, they've known each other forever and still stay in touch, so I'd never have to be your best friend right there from the old Nashville days, Tina McLaren, and my wife met Tina when Tina put her child in a daycare, and my wife put ours in a daycare, but they didn't want to leave them there, so both of them got jobs. Tina and my wife Lisa both worked at a daycare, so they could be there with their kids because, Tina and my wife wanted the kids to have kids to play with, so they go get jobs there, and it became really good friends. When we moved to Knoxville, we don't get to see them as much, but we're going to get out there and see you here pretty soon. I tell Lisa every time we're down to call you, but we're usually down and back, but we can at least meet you out on the interstate for lunch or something. But glad to have you on there. And anyway, Ray Collette, glad to have you on. It's a little late tonight, but you do good. And I mentioned Alan Bobby's on earlier. I don't know if he's still on, but man, I've said, I don't know what else I can say about him that I'm not, but he's my very favorite and one of the best buddies that I've had in music. I really think the world of Alan. Good guy. And anyway, that's oh yeah, Mark Roach mentioned a big party we used to have here where Claire played music along with everybody else. The Great Buffalo Chip Roundup. It was a big party put on by the guys at Double D Western Store. Charlie Dunlap and a bunch of those folks, and the good days. But I appreciate having you all on and everything, and I know tonight we was talking about moonshine and all that other stuff, and you know, stuff when you're young. I never was one that really followed that road, but you know, that's stuff that's way in my rearview mirror. But it's fun to talk about, but it don't mean you still do it or you did do it. I really never did, and definitely haven't in even, well, gosh, since I was a teenager. So, but you know, even then wasn't much of anything. Just usually just something to hold on to, like you had something you were drinking. But I just like to talk about the fun times, the people we used to do, and it's funny to talk about all the good things and the funny things. And Claire Lynch was in at that time in my life with all the rest of us. We were picking and learning late 70s, 80s, when we were around all the people like Keith Whitley and Ricky Skaggs and J.D. Crowe and Tony Rice and all these other people during those years. And we never knew uh, we never knew Ricky Skaggs and Bill like that was going to be as big as they were and stuff. We were all just a bunch of guys wanting to play music, and I'll never trade that off for anything, because I've had so many good friends over the years that aren't here anymore. And lost, I'm going to mention this, a fella that was the first musician I ever saw playing bluegrass. My dad took me over to see these guys and play, and it was a man and his kids. And I didn't want to go because I wasn't interested in bluegrass. I was playing snare drum at school, and my dad wouldn't take me over, and I didn't want to go. And he told me he would stop and get me an ice cream if I'd go over with him to watch this bluegrass band, because my dad liked bluegrass. And there was a guy, there was a band called the Collins Boys, and it was at the time it was two kids and their dad was Alan Collins. And I got to know Alan over the years. He was the first bass player with the Knoxville Grass. Then time goes on, and we'd see Alan everywhere, and Alan was just a funny guy, and we used to talk and joke with Alan and stuff. And anyway, a lot of your music heroes and music friends pass away, and we lost Alan this past week, or week and a half ago. And I'll never forget seeing them, because they were the ones that made me want to play music, to go play something. Seeing kids play and stuff made me want to play. So anyway, we're going to miss Alan and everything, and it's just sad to be losing so many buddies. But I'm going to eventually do a show on here with, I'm going to find somebody here that was, here in Knoxville, and talk to them a little about the stuff we had here, the stuff we did here, and things like that. But I'm gonna keep trying to bring you lots of people you want to see and want to hear. And I say see because I am going to try to get Zoom going. So we'll do that, and I'm gonna get out of here. And remember, you can watch any of this stuff over on YouTube. All you got to do is go there and go to my page, my channel. And like I said, if you go over there, be sure, if you don't mind, go like the page. Even if you don't watch it, like it. It helps me be able to do stuff where I can do this. So thank you so much, and God bless you. And you take care. And I'll announce on my page here in a few days who I'm having next week. I'm still in between a couple. So talk to you later. God bless you. See ya.